All right, guys, thanks for joining us for our first of two kind of advanced trainings that we cover a bit more of the complex features inside of FieldEdge. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here. Today, we're going to be talking about our part requests. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to be talking about what exactly a part request is. We're also going to talk about expenses, which are kind of similar but a little bit different in their nature. And just kind of how they're all used and then how to process them inside of FieldEdge. So what we see here is going to be our part request lists. This is going to be a list of all of our part requests, and we can also go ahead and we can view this by status. We've got our filters up here like we do with all of our different views inside of FieldEdge. But here we can see the date the part request came in, the part request or vendor credit number. Vendor credit is going to be the opposite of a part request. That'll be when we return something that we've ordered. We got our work order numbers, so we can drill down in there by clicking on the number. We can also see the customer, who created it. We'll see our request type, so it's an invoice or a vendor credit, whether we're buying something or returning something. We can also see the status that we're in and the vendor that's associated with it. I'll also be able to see when our expected delivery date is and a PO number if we assign one. All right. So up across the top, a couple of handy views here. I can click on requested. This is going to show me anything that's in a requested status. Same thing for ordered. Be anything in an ordered status. So we've actually talked to the vendor. We've said, we need to get these parts. Then received is going to show us any of these that we've gotten ahead and we've gotten those parts back from the vendor. And then overdue, this is going to be an important one. This is going to be anything that we haven't received yet that has surpassed its expected delivery date. So for these, maybe I want to call the vendor and say, hey, I expected a package on the 15th. I haven't gotten it yet. What's going on with that? We can try to figure out what's going on there. All right. All right. So before we get into actually creating a part request, I do want to mention that there's sort of three different ways that we can create a part request or that we can handle a part request inside of FieldEdge. First way is we can handle everything just inside of FieldEdge. Nothing goes over to QuickBooks. The second way is that we can actually create the part requests inside of FieldEdge. And then when we send those over to QuickBooks, they'll come over as purchase orders. That one's helpful if you're tracking inventory. Then the third way is that we can send them over as bills. So sending them over as bills offers the most flexibility, but it doesn't help us too much when it comes to actually tracking inventory stock. So just heads up, those are the three ways that we can do it. The way that I've got my test database set up here is to send over the bills. So I'll be able to kind of show you how we can edit things if we decide to do it that way. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to move over to our dispatch board. And I want to draw attention to the backordered section of the dispatch board. So here we are on the dispatch board. I can click backordered here. And then I can see any of our work orders that are in the backordered status. Let's go ahead and collapse the map there so I can see everything. But here I can see that we've got a couple different calls. Some of them have the parts requested, some of them the parts ordered. But I do have one down here for Elmer where those parts have been received. So because the parts have been received, I'll probably want to go ahead and I want to get that scheduled back out so we can get back there for Elmer and we can get that job taken care of. All right, so I do want to switch over to the mobile side of it real quick so I can show you how we're actually going to create a part request from the mobile end. And we do talk about this a little bit in session number 2 where we cover the mobile app. So I'm going to drag this over and we'll blow that up. There we go. All right, so you guys will be seeing my phone screen now. I've got a job here for Jose. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on that. We're going to open that up. And we'll set that to our traveling status. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and change that over to working. All right. So let's say we go out there and we need to invoice him for a motor. And maybe we also need a bracket. But we're going to need to order that motor. I'm going to come in here. Let me search a motor real quick. There we go. And we'll go ahead and we'll select this motor right here. All right, so we've got that motor on the invoice. It's going to be for the repair. Maybe I'll add labor or whatever else I need. But we're going to need to get this part, and we're going to need to order this part because I don't have it in my truck and I don't have it in my warehouse. So what I can do is I'm going to go over 2 screens to my request/expense screen. So from here, I can go ahead and I can create that expense, and I can go ahead and I can create that part request. We're gonna create 2 of them for here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on Add Request Expense here at the bottom, and then I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna create a part request. So the part request is going to be situations where we are going to leave the job because we have to order the part, and it's going to take us, some time to get that part in, and we're going to go back. Those are going to be for situations where, again, we have to reach out to the vendor and order the part, and we're not going to be coming back that same day. Then we've got our expenses. Expenses are going to be for those situations where we run out of the supply house. Maybe we just run over to Home Depot and we grab a PVC pipe or just a kit or something that we need. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the part request. And I'm going to select part request from invoice. And it's going to take us to our request screen. So I can come in here and I can add our notes. So we'll put in motor. And then we're also going to need a bracket here, so I'm going to type in bracket. This is just going to flow back to the office so that we kind of know what we're ordering on here and kind of what this is for. And this will be for the Jose Acosta job. All right, so under items from invoice, I can go ahead and I can click add there. And it's going to pull up any of the items that are on the invoice. So if I had more than just the motor, we'd have more here. But I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to order this motor. And we're going to go back. We're going to check it off, and then we're going to click add. There we go. All right. So underneath that, I do have a non-invoice item section. So if there's something that's not on the invoice that I do need to add, like that bracket, I can go ahead and I can click add here. And then I can come in here and I can find the bracket if I've got it as an item, but I'm going to create it as a miscellaneous for now. So I'm actually going to go ahead and click on my star here for my favorites. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my miscellaneous item. We'll go back. I can also change if this is going to be billable or not. This just changes how it reflects back on the invoice. So if we're going to be charging the customer for this bracket, I'm going to change this over to on. In this case, we're going to include this with the installation here, just because it's going to be a $5 part. I'm not too terribly worried about it. So change that. I'm going to open this up. And I am going to change the description here, just because I want to make sure that in the office, this comes through and we know what it is because I'm using something that's miscellaneous. It's just going to say miscellaneous part. So it's important that I go in and I change it if I'm using kind of a miscellaneous code so that we actually know what we're ordering. So for this one, I'm going to type in motor bracket. I'll click save. And then if I needed more, I could go ahead and change my quantity. But the price here, that's going to come from the office. So I'm going to go ahead and click save down in the bottom right. And then now we'll have our miscellaneous motor bracket here. So we can go ahead and we can click on save request. And then that's going to go ahead and it's going to complete the request. And we can either upload this now, using this at the bottom here, or when we complete it or we set it to backward status, it'll send that up to the office. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Upload Now, and it's going to shoot that up to the office. And if I come back here to my part request list, now that I've uploaded it, I'll actually be able to see, if I go to my request list here, the one that we've done for Jose. I've got him in there for a different one, but this is the one that we just created. So as soon as I click upload and it finishes, it's going to go ahead and send it to the office. We'll come back to that in just a second, because I do also want to talk about expenses. So expenses work a little bit differently. They're a little bit less involved, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add an expense. So I've already got a part request on here, so the big orange button at the bottom is gone. But if I click add in the top right, it's going to pop up that same window, and we can go ahead and we can add either another parts request or we can do an expense. So I'm going to do an expense. And we can go ahead and we can punch in our cost. So we'll say that, maybe we're going to run out, we're going to get some cabling or PVC pipe, whatever it happens to be. But we'll say it's $20. Our date's going to default to today. We can select our vendor. Go ahead and we'll do Granger here. And then already paid. Already paid is very important from the accounting standpoint. If you're the technician and you hand the vendor cash or you swipe your credit card, then we want to go ahead and we want to check this off. What that's going to do is this is going to create a bill back in the office, and it's actually going to already be paid if we check it as already paid. But if you have an account with Granger and they maybe send you a statement once a month and you just pay it, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave that unchecked. So again, if you give the vendor money and you've already paid for it, make sure we check that box. That way we're not paying them twice. All right, so down here in our description field, we can go ahead and we can type in whatever we need. There we go. And then I can just type it in, so it'll be PVC pipe. Click save. Now, with the way that I've got my database set up, if I click on save, it is going to bark at me and ask me for an image of the receipt. So I'm going to need to attach that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take an image here. And I'm going to go ahead and select camera. And we're going to take one from, well, I don't have a receipt around, so I'm going to go ahead and do this Red Bull here. I'm just waiting for that to save. Screen mirroring that I use for my phone and my camera don't play nice all the time. There we go. All right. So I can go ahead and I can click OK there. And we can include that image. Now, again, it's important. I do want to bring up that it is just going to require an image. It doesn't have to be an image of a receipt, but that's where we'll get into kind of technician coaching and make sure that we get images of the receipt and not other stuff. So I'll go ahead and click on Save Expense there. And now that we've attached that image, it's going to go ahead and it's going to give us the option here. Now, expenses work a little bit differently in that it's not going to give us the option to upload it automatically. We'll have to complete this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come over here. We'll say that we're going to take payment. So I'm just going to apply a payment here. For the sake of making things easy, I'll say it's cash. Okay. And we'll back out of that. Now let's try that again. And submit. There we go. All right. So scrolling down, go ahead and we'll get Jose's signature here. And I'm going to click on complete. Now, because I've created a parts request, I'm going to have an additional resolution code here. So normally it'll just say work performed and warranty. but because we've told it essentially we're ordering parts, we're going to get this back order status. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on back order there. Then it's going to go ahead and it's going to upload the expense along with that image. And then it's going to take us back out to our work orders. All right, so now we can come back into the office here. We can actually take a look at the different parts requests, and we can go ahead and we can start working on it. So we are now back in the office, and if I'm an admin, I'll actually get an alert. Actually, yep, here we go. So I have a parts request that needs review, and then I'm not connected to QuickBooks right now, so I've got this error, but I'll be able to also see that I need to review a parts request. Okay. So let's go ahead and open up this work order here. We'll take a look at how that expense carries over. And now inside the work order, under the purchases micro dashboard, I can go ahead and click on expenses here. And then I can see that expense. Then if I click on this, it'll open it up. And then ideally I'll have an image of the receipt here, but we can change anything that we need to. All right, so back over to the parts request. So parts request is a little bit more involved. We've got a little bit more that we need to actually do. So we need to actually send this out to the vendor, and we need to order these parts. So to do that, I'm going to come in here, and we're going to see here that my status is still parts requested because we haven't actually opened this up. So I'm going to click that line, and it's going to pop up. And here I'll be able to select my vendor. So I can go ahead and say, use Grainger again. Select them. Parts request, that's going to be on a counter. It's just going to be a number that keeps ticking up. We can change this to whatever we want to. And if we have a certain pre-generated PO number, we can go ahead and we can plug that in there. Then also, while we're talking to the vendor, or maybe we order online, we'll want to grab an expected delivery date. That's going to be important for that overdue. So we can go ahead and say, hey, this is taking a little bit longer than it should. Let's go ahead and let's call Grainger and see where we're at. All right. So if I'm ordering something and the type is set to inventory, then what I can actually do is we'll see that the warehouse is required here. So I need to essentially tell it where it's going to go. So I'll click on that. And then we'll say that Ben's going to go out and he's going to do the install. So we're just going to receive it right to Ben's truck. That way when Ben goes out and does the job, it'll invoice and it'll come off of his truck. We can also go ahead and update our cost here. So I'm going to be this one, maybe the price has gone up a little bit. So say it's 160. And we've got our bracket. Well, that's going to be $5. All right, I can also select my class. So if you guys are using classes over in QuickBooks, we can select the appropriate class. And then down here, I've got my ship to. So essentially, where are we sending this? So company address, that'll be sending it to us. Customer address, we're going to ship it to the actual customer's location. And then pick up from vendor, we're going to go to the vendor and we're going to pick it up there. Got my notes that have come through. And then I can go ahead and I can edit these and do whatever I need to. And we go ahead and we can change from parts requested to parts ordered. And then if I'm connected to QuickBooks, I'll be able to create the bill over on the QuickBooks side. I'm going to do save for later for now. Doug asks, what if you need to order parts from multiple vendors? Well, in that situation, we would actually need to create a different PO for each of them, just one for each vendor. So in that case, we can actually do something pretty handy. If I click on add request from invoice here, it's actually going to do the same thing as clicking add from invoice here, but I'll be able to see the different items on the invoice. So if I've got to order parts from Grainger, parts from Home Depot, and then maybe parts from like Ace Hardware, whatever vendors we're working with, I can come in here and I can say, well, we're going to order the bracket from Tropic Supply. And then I could run through and I could create the invoice or the PO for that, set it to ordered, and then I could repeat that process for whatever else that I need. So we can build them out pretty quickly for the different vendors. All right, so let's go ahead and say that we created our part request here, but maybe we got one of the pricing things wrong. So let's go ahead and open this back up. Now, if I'm posting things over as bills, again, like I said, I get a little bit more flexibility. Yep, so I could actually, I'd have to post it over to QuickBooks. But if this was posted over to QuickBooks, I'd be able to come in here and maybe change the cost on that bracket. Maybe we got a couple dollars off. We want to go ahead and correct that. If we're using POs, then we can go into QuickBooks and we'll change it there. Just heads up with the POs, again, we lose the flexibility to come back in here and actually edit this on the fly. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll say a couple days go by. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open this up and we're going to set the status to received. So I'll click on parts received there, and then we'll save it. All right, so now we've come in here, we've told it essentially, hey, those parts that we needed, we've got those now. So now that we've got those parts, we need to go ahead and we need to reschedule this. So we're going to go ahead and go back out to our dispatch board. All right. So on the dispatch board, I go back to my back ordered status here. I will notice that the original job for Jose is still there, but it's got this little hand truck icon. Just lets us know that we're in back ordered status. And then we'll also notice that down here, parts are received. I can go ahead and I can drag this back up. We'll say we'll do it same day here just so we can see the change. Once I schedule that, it's actually going to go ahead and mark the previous one completed. So we've got those parts, and we reschedule it, and we'll just go ahead and close out the previous assignment for us. All right, so the other thing I want to talk about is sort of the workflow from the office. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to say that we get a quote. So I'm going to come in here to quotes. I'm sorry, customers. We're going to create a quote for a customer. We'll say that we're going to quote a new train unit. Go ahead and select someone here. We'll do Lyle. All right, so it looks like he gives us a bit of money, but we're gonna forgo that for now, and I'm gonna create a quote here. All right, so I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna build out this quote. Select my lead source. Now we're gonna do a train unit. And we'll do that one there. And we can also maybe do our labor. And then however many hours of labor we're going to need. So I'll put 6 on there for that one. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and create this. Then we're gonna come back to the quote. We're gonna say that Lyle gets back to us and says, okay, awesome, let's go ahead and let's go forward with this. Change my status over here from accepted or pending to accepted. And then I'll have the option to schedule this out. So I'm gonna go ahead and click schedule. Select my task. This will be an AC install. We can add our notes. Then we can set it up. So we'll say that we're going to go out there a little bit later today, just to make things easy and keep everything on the same dispatch board. So I'm going to go ahead and go to book for later. All right. So now what I can go ahead and do is I can open up the work order for that customer. Let me just find him here. Do Lyle. All right, so now that I've scheduled this work order, it's going to have converted that invoice or that quote into an invoice for us. So now I can come under purchases here. And if I wanted to, I could do add request from quote or I could do add request from invoice. At this point, it's not going to matter too much because all the same items that are on the quote are going to be on the invoice, but we'll do add request from quote. And it's blank. Let's do the invoice. Make sure that comes through okay. There we go. I'm not sure what's going on with the quotes there. I'll go ahead and I'll take a look at that on my end after we're done here. But now I can go ahead and say, let's go ahead and order that. We can just check it off. Select our vendor. I'm going to do Granger again just because they're easy to use. Our expected delivery date. Then our class. Click add to request. It's going to put that on here. And I'll go ahead and say we're going to put that on Ben's truck again. We can adjust our cost if we need to. But we're going to go ahead and say that, save that for later. And then because this was in pending status, I am going to get a pop-up. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to tell me that we have a couple options. So one, we can hold this job in a backordered status, or we can allow newer existing agreements or assignments to continue. Allow new or existing assignments to continue. Sorry. That'll let us go ahead and keep working on the job. Whereas if I put it in backordered, it's going to kind of place it on hold until we get those parts ordered. Okay. So for this one, we're going to hold it in backorder status for now. But if I had people that were still going to go out there and do stuff, maybe it's a larger type of install job, that'd be the situation. So if it was an install job, that'd be the situation where I'd go ahead and I'd select allow newer existing assignments. So we go ahead and set that to backordered. And then from there, it's going to be the same process we went through after the mobile side of things, where we'll go back in, we'll go ahead and we'll set that to received, we'll schedule it back out, and then we'll go ahead and we'll do the work. All right, so every now and then you guys will have to do a return. So let me actually go back to Jose's record. Then maybe something happened and we didn't end up doing that job. We can go ahead and we can return the pipe that we bought. Maybe we only use some of the pipe, we want to return the rest of it. Let's go ahead and pull him up here. And then we'll open up that work order and we'll talk about kind of the return process. All right, so we're just going to open up his work order here. All right, so we're going to come over to our purchases. And let's say I need to return that motor. What I can do is I can just click on add a vendor credit. And what that's going to do is let me go ahead and select the items off of the invoice. So whatever we're returning, and I'll add that to the credit. I want to make sure we select the same vendor that we originally did this from. So in that case, it's going to be Granger here. The date, vendor credit, class, all that stuff's going to carry over. Go and select that there. And then I can save this and I can post this over to QuickBooks. Now, my FieldEdge isn't currently connected to QuickBooks, so I'm going to get an error, but it's still going to go ahead and create that. And we'll get that over once that connection's reestablished. So the process for returning an item for a parts request is incredibly simple. We just got to go ahead and create the part request, tell it what to return, then we post that over. Expenses are also pretty simple. We can actually also do these from mobile. The process is going to be the same whether we're out in the field or we're in the office here. So I'm going to show you from the office side. So let's say we go out and we use, half of the PVC pipe we bought, but we're going to return the other half of it. So I'm going to click on Add Expense Credit. And it's going to go ahead and let me know that, hey, this is going to update the accounting system. Click Yes there. And it's going to pop up and it's going to show us kind of the same screen that we saw on mobile here. So we're going to get an expense number. The expense date is going to pre-populate. Then I can do our cost here. So what are we returning essentially? So we'll say that we used half of the $20 worth of pipe that we got. We're going to go ahead and return the other $10. I can go ahead and I can select my vendor. Again, we do want to make sure that this is the same vendor that we purchased from. Punch that in there. Then add expense as a non-billable invoice item. We're going to uncheck that because we're going to be taking something out of the equation for the customer. And then already credited. Usually this is going to mirror the expense. So if it's something that's already been paid, so the technician pays cash for the pipe, then they go back in, they return some of the pipe. Usually they're going to get cash back. But if we have an account, then it'll go ahead and it'll just get applied to that account. So in that case, we'll go ahead and select no. So go ahead and we'll click yes there. Every employee is going to have their own, or can have their own default expenses payment account. So if all of your technicians have their own cards, we can track on an individual basis. But mine is going to be set here. So we can do return some of the PVC. And then I'll click save. And because my database is set up to require a receipt, it does also require one in the office. So I can go ahead and click on add receipt here. We'll just select an image. Then we can click on save. All right. And then I've got another error that just lets me know I'm not connected to QuickBooks. I'll get that fixed and we'll get all that stuff over there. All right, so parts requests are a little bit one of our shorter sessions. So what I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and leave the chat open for another 10-15 minutes or so, just to answer any questions that might pop up. If you have anything beyond that, then definitely reach out to your success manager or your onboarding agent. Go ahead and we'll get those squared away for you. If you haven't already, go ahead and shoot me a message in the chat with your name, your company, and your email address, and I'll make sure we go ahead and we get a copy of this training over to you guys. And then just real quick, our other advanced training runs on Thursday. That's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then we're going to cover jobs. Jobs are going to be used for larger projects where maybe we're doing phase billing, or we're going to be going out there multiple times over the course of many days. Usually it's going to be new installs and commercial stuff. But we'll be covering that on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording here. But I'll be around to go ahead and answer any questions that you guys have. Appreciate it.